Hello and welcome to phuketpals GED Express Screencast with me, Teacher Marky. Today's lesson focuses on the introduction to cell division and cell cycle. On our previous discussion, you've learned about the functions of the different organelles inside the cell. Now, we're going to have a three-part discussion for cell division and cell cycle. But before that, at the end of this discussion, every one of you is expected to identify, describe, interpret, and distinguish the cell division and cell cycle. Now we begin with the cell division. So from the word itself, divide, that means there is a specific division or replicates of an exact copy from a parent cell. So during cell division, new cells are produced for growth and to replace damaged or old cells. For example, you have an injury and the cells that is in there on your injury used to have cell division so that it can replace the damaged cells. Next, differs in prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So when we say prokaryotic, that would be the cell for bacteria. That means they are single-celled organism. And for eukaryotes, that would be for fungi, protists, plants, and animals. Next, we have here the types of cell reproduction. So we have asexual reproduction. This involves a single cell dividing to make two new identical daughter cells. And we have here an example for asexual reproduction, which is mitosis and binary fission. For mitosis, I'm going to discuss that on a separate screencast. And for sexual reproduction, which is true among plants and animals, this involves two cells, specifically the egg and the sperm cells, which joins together to make a new cell called zygote. And that is not identical to the original cells, unlike with that of the prokaryotic cells or the one which is under asexual reproduction. Now, meiosis is an example of sexual reproduction. Now, for cell division in prokaryotes, we have here this one. Prokaryotes such as bacteria divide into two identical cells by the process of binary fission. You should always take note that on cell division for prokaryotic cells, the cells that is being produced is identical from the parent cell, and single chromosomes makes a copy of itself. So from a single chromosome, it makes up its own copy. And cell wall forms between the chromosomes dividing the cell. The cell wall itself is the one who divides the cell into separate parts. For example, we have here this illustration. As you can see, we have there a single celled organism that is a bacteria, and then from the next page it was divided into two, and then there is a cell wall or the alignment that you have in there in blue, and then it separates to form two new identical cells. So we have here prokaryotic cell undergoing binary fission. As you can see in there, they're about to separate, and the outer lining of that cell is what we call cell wall. Later on, that cell will be divided into two identical cells. Now, this is an animation of binary fission. So we have there DNA replication and cross-wall formation. They separated from each other, and then eventually, slowly, and then there will be two daughter cells which is identical from the parent cell. Again, for example, we have here this cell. The DNA is inside this nucleus of the cell, and then DNA strands separate, and then cross-wall formation, and then it will separate to form daughter cells. Okay? How about the cell cycle? So the cell cycle follows a unique path. So from a specific stage, it will move up to another stage to perform a specific function. Now, under cell cycle, there are 5 phases. We have the G1, which is known as the primary growth phase, and we have S for synthesis. This is where the DNA is being replicated. And for G2 phase, this is the secondary growth phase, and they are collectively 3 stages called interphase. So if you're going to group G1, S, and G2, they are known as interphase on the cell cycle. And then after that, we have M for mitosis. I'll discuss this on a separate screencast. And letter C, that is for cytokinesis. Now, we start with the cell cycle diagram. So everything starts with G1, which is the primary growth, followed by S, which is synthesis. This is where the DNA is being replicated. And for growth 2, we have it in there. So collectively, those 3 is known as interphase. And then after that, we have mitosis. We have there the parts of mitosis, the prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, which will I discuss in a separate screencast. And then after that, we have cytokinesis. So that is the cycle. Now we begin with the interphase or the G1 stage. This is the first growth stage after cell division. So after cell division, it will undergo the cell cycle. So it will be on the interphase under G1 or the primary growth stage. Now, during this stage, the cells mature by making more cytoplasm and organelles. And the cell carries on its normal metabolic activities. For the interphase under S or synthesis stage, which is the second stage of interphase, like what I've said, it's all about synthesis, and the DNA is copied or replicated. So from this specific DNA, it will be replicated, like 2 copies of it, or more than 2. Now, after that, we have the interphase or G2 stage. So, on the secondary growth stage of the cell during the cell cycle occurs after DNA has been copied and all cell structures needed for division are made. For example, centrioles is also made during this specific stage, which is necessary for mitosis and meiosis. You will know more about centrioles on the next screencast, so don't miss it. And next, both organelles and proteins are synthesized during the secondary growth stage. And next, after interphase, we have here this one. So during the interphase, you should always consider that centrioles is being formed and DNA is replicated, and cell prepares for cell division. Now, since you already have an understanding on the cell division and cell cycle, like what was discussed, let's try to answer the following questions. Let's begin. Binary fission refers to the process by which A. The nucleus of a cell splits just prior to cytokinesis. B. Most plant and animal cells reproduce. C. Bacteria and other cells lacking a nucleus reproduce. Or D. A cell duplicates its DNA. What's your answer? Exactly. Binary fission refers to the process by which bacteria and other cells lacking a nucleus reproduce. So this is only true for prokaryotic cells. Next, after a single cell divides, there are three cells, the parent cell and two daughter cells. The answer is false because there are only two identical cells for that. And how about this one? The cell cycle can be described as blank, a chaotic and composed of various phases that are virtually indistinguishable when viewed through a microscope. B. Identical in every kind of cell. C. A sequence of events that continues constantly in all cells. D. A pattern of distinct phases in a cell regulated by proteins. What is the answer? Answer is letter D. The cell cycle is described as a pattern of distinct phases in a regulated pattern, specifically by proteins. That is your answer. Excellent. How about this question? The cell cycle can be reversed, causing a cell to move backwards from mitosis back to the G2 and S phase. The answer is false because it follows a unique path. That means it should always start from primary growth to the synthesis to the secondary growth, and then after that we have mitosis. Now, next interphase collectively refers to, is it A, mitosis and cytokinesis, B, initial growth and the restriction point, C, is it primary growth, synthesis phase, and G2 phase? The answer is letter C. So when we say interphase, that is a combination of primary growth, synthesis, and secondary growth. Great job for answering the question. Now, for the references that we have used for today, we still have Reading Essentials for Biology, Glencoe 2017, and we have Glencoe Biology Macro Hill Education. Now, if you want to read in advance, you can make use of these references. And you should not miss the part 2 of this lesson under cell division and cell cycle, which is mitosis and meiosis. And that will be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. And since you are already here, you might as well subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like and share this video if you find it helpful. And you can connect with us by visiting our website at www.phuketpals.org or visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/phuketpals. And if you have questions or inquiries regarding our organization, you can contact us directly through line or call 081-417-0978. That will be all for today, and I'll see you on my next screencast. Goodbye, everyone!